Tonight, imagine standing on an open plain with nothing in your hands. No gun, no bow, no spear. Just your body, your brain, and the people standing beside you. And somewhere ahead of you, moving through the tall grass, is a creature that weighs 6 tons. You are not the apex predator in this story. Not yet. But your ancestors hunted that animal, regularly, successfully. And the way they did it will completely change how you think about what makes humans dangerous. The woolly mammoth was not a passive creature waiting to be caught. It stood nearly 11 feet tall at the shoulder. Its tusks could reach 14 feet in length. It could charge at speeds of up to 15 miles per hour. A single strike from its trunk could kill a human instantly. These were not prey animals in any conventional sense. They were the largest land mammals walking the earth during the Pleistocene, and your ancestors hunted them with a level of strategic sophistication that modern researchers are only beginning to fully understand. Because the most powerful weapon your ancestors had was not in their hands. It was in their heads. And in their feet. Paleoanthropologist Daniel Lieberman at Harvard has spent decades studying what he calls persistence hunting, the idea that early humans were uniquely adapted for a form of hunting that required no projectile weapons whatsoever. The human body, Lieberman argues, is the most efficient long-distance running machine ever produced by evolution. You have a nuchal ligament that stabilizes your head while running. No other primate has this. You have an Achilles tendon that stores and releases energy like a spring. You have 2 million sweat glands distributed across your skin, allowing you to regulate heat far more efficiently than any four-legged mammal alive. And you can breathe independently of your stride, meaning you can sustain aerobic output for hours while a four-legged animal is forced to pant in rhythm with its gallop. A mammoth could outrun you in a sprint. Over the course of an afternoon, you would destroy it. But persistence running alone does not explain mammoth hunting. Mammoths were too large, too powerful, and too socially bonded to be simply chased to death on open ground. What the archaeological record reveals is something far more intricate. Something that required planning, communication, terrain knowledge, and a level of group coordination that anthropologists now recognize as one of the earliest expressions of what we call collective intelligence. The first stage was landscape reading. Ancient hunters did not simply track mammoths and follow them. They studied the terrain the way a chess player studies the board 3 moves ahead. Researcher Haynes, a paleoecologist who has spent his career analyzing Pleistocene kill sites in North America and Europe, has documented a consistent pattern at mammoth hunting sites. They are almost always located near natural bottlenecks, river crossings, canyon narrows, cliff edges, boggy ground along lockshores where the soil becomes unstable under heavy weight. Your ancestors were not simply following mammoths. They were predicting where the mammoths would go and positioning themselves accordingly. This is not instinct. This is spatial reasoning. This is the ability to model a moving system in your mind, account for the behavior of a large animal, factor in terrain variables, and arrive somewhere before your target does. It is, essentially, the same cognitive process you use when you navigate traffic or predict what another person is about to do. Once the terrain was selected, the group coordinated a surround. Researchers studying San hunter-gatherer techniques in southern Africa, which represent some of the oldest continuous hunting traditions on Earth, have documented group encirclement strategies that likely mirror what ancient mammoth hunters practiced. The group spreads in a wide arc behind and to the sides of the animal, moving slowly, staying downwind, using the terrain to channel the mammoth toward a predetermined kill zone. No one acts alone. No one moves without reading the movements of every other member of the group. The hunt is a synchronized performance executed by people who have rehearsed it, discussed it, and planned it in advance. And here is where fire enters the story. Archaeological evidence from sites across Europe and Asia, including the Dolní Věstonice site in the Czech Republic and multiple sites analyzed by archaeologist Will Robrooks of Leiden University, suggests that ancient humans used controlled fire as a hunting tool far earlier than previously understood. Fire was not just for warmth and cooking. It was a weapon, a directional force, a way to stampede large animals, to drive them toward cliffs, toward bogs, toward waiting hunters positioned at the exit point of a natural funnel. A mammoth encountering fire on 3 sides has only one direction to move. And your ancestors already knew which direction that was. The kill itself rarely required a weapon capable of killing the mammoth outright. What it required was exhaustion, terrain, and precision. A mammoth driven into boggy ground loses its mobility advantage entirely. Its weight becomes its enemy. Its legs sink. It cannot turn quickly. It cannot charge. And at that point, the hunters close in, not with spears designed to penetrate a mammoth's thick hide at full health, but with coordinated strikes targeting vulnerable areas. The eyes, the trunk, the tendons at the back of the legs. Researcher Haynes and his colleagues have found mammoth bones at kill sites with cut marks and impact points that tell this exact story. Multiple hunters, multiple angles, a systematic dismantling of the animal's ability to defend itself before the final blow was delivered. This is not primitive. This is strategy. This is the same layered thinking that would eventually produce military tactics, surgical procedures, and engineering projects. The mammoth hunt was not the act of a species discovering it could be dangerous. It was the act of a species that already understood leverage, coordination, terrain, timing, and the management of a complex system toward a predetermined outcome. But perhaps the most underappreciated element of the mammoth hunt was what happened before and after. Before the hunt, the group planned. They read tracks. They discussed the terrain. They assigned roles. Some researchers, including anthropologist Sterelny, have argued that the transmission of hunting knowledge across generations, the detailed, specific, procedural knowledge of how to read a landscape, how to position a group, how to read an animal's behavior, was one of the primary drivers of the explosion in human cognitive complexity that happened roughly 50,000 years ago. The mammoth hunt was not just a food acquisition strategy. It was a curriculum. It was the school in which human intelligence learned to operate at its full depth. After the hunt, the group processed the animal together. A woolly mammoth provided an extraordinary caloric surplus, enough meat, fat, bone marrow, and hide to sustain a group for weeks. The tusks and bones became tools, shelters, and raw materials. Nothing was wasted. The mammoth did not just feed the group, it built the group's infrastructure. It funded the next generation's survival. And here is the thing that should make you pause. The intelligence required to hunt a mammoth without conventional weapons, the spatial reasoning, the group coordination, the multi-step planning, the ability to model another creature's behavior and predict its movement, is not a specialized skill that evolved separately from the rest of human cognition. It is the same intelligence you use every day, when you navigate a complex social situation, when you plan a project with multiple moving parts, when you read a room and adjust your behavior accordingly, when you work toward a long-term goal that requires patience, coordination, and the ability to see the outcome before it exists. Your ancestors did not invent strategy when they started building cities. They invented it standing on a frozen plain, watching a 6-ton animal move through tall grass, and deciding not to run at it but to think at it. The mammoth is gone now. It disappeared roughly 4,000 years ago, likely through a combination of climate change and exactly the kind of sustained, intelligent, coordinated hunting pressure that your ancestors perfected over tens of thousands of years. But the mind that hunted it is still here. You are running it right now. The next time you solve a complex problem, the next time you coordinate with other people toward a shared goal, the next time you look at a difficult situation and instead of reacting immediately you stop, study the terrain, and think 3 moves ahead, you are doing exactly what your ancestors did standing at the edge of that plain with nothing in their hands. The most dangerous thing about your species was never the weapon. It was always the mind holding it.